on?
Hey.
So we're back in Queens. We're at the 71st Street and Continental Station. So why are we in here?
Oh, we just got off at the at Virginia Voskerichian's train stop, where she got off every night and either jumped on the bus or took a quick walk to her house.
Just a quick walk home. So right now we are coming out at the corner of
71st and Queens Boulevard.
And Continental 71st and Queens Boulevard. Let's just get a quick visual here. So this is the train station that she would have come out of. And so basically we're back in the same neighborhood that we were in when we were looking at the Freund and Freund and Deal shooting.
Pretty much. It's and amazingly, eerily close to one another.
Unbelievably close. And of course the shootings were right after the other.
5 weeks apart.
5 weeks apart. Now what's interesting, and we're going to get into this more in the Voskerichian live stream, it seems that Berkowitz might have been stalking this area for several weeks, but at the very least he was in this area that night for hours walking around, and several people saw him and reported it to the police, I believe. Yeah. Some of those reports are in there. But yeah, so she would have gotten out of the station, and on this particular night, which was March 8th, 1977, she decided to walk home. And you were going to be passing right by where we were for the Freund and Deal shooting. It's unbelievable, the brass balls on this guy Berkowitz.
So Virginia Voskerichian basically walked the same path that Christine Freund and John Deal did to get to their car. She was walking to get to her house.
Right. And of course we are on 71st right here approaching Austin Street, which if you guys remember the Freund walk and talk, Austin Street is where the wine gallery was. And John is correct. This is the corner where they turned. They turned left because they were coming from that way, and they went left down that. And Virginia was walking just down this street here.
Yeah, she would walk straight here and make a slight right onto Dartmouth.
Right, which we're gonna do.
She would take Dartmouth straight to Exeter.
Now, the crazy thing about Voskerichian was, there's two things that strike me that are just insane about this shooting. Actually, no, let's. This is so freaking busy around here.
Walk this way, because it blocks off.
Walk this way. All right, let's cross. So there's two things that strike me as odd about this shooting. One is that it took place in the same neighborhood, directly, like not even 50 feet away from where Freund was shot.
Right.
Which takes a lot of balls.
A lot of balls.
Just a couple weeks later, 5 weeks later, as you said. And then, not only that, but it took place at 7:30 in the evening.
It's funny, he wasn't in the least bit concerned that there might have been extra police on hand because of the shooting a month prior. Just didn't care.
He didn't care. It didn't occur to him. So we're now entering right back again under this underpass under the Long Island Railroad, right back into Station Square, which by now you guys are very familiar with after our Freund live stream series. And we are entering now back into the confines of Forest Hills Village once again. Now for those who don't remember or didn't see the video, this is of course where Christine Freund was shot, right down there, and this is the intersection where
John Deal blocked his car, yeah.
John Deal blocked his car right here. But Virginia Voskerichian walked 1 block further south and ended up on Dartmouth Street, where not too far away was where she unfortunately met her untimely demise. Let me just stop here. I just want to take a look at some of these. So again, I mean, John, it's like part of this is site analysis, and I'll just speak for myself. When Maury described these scenes, I did not have this in mind. I had a much more sleepy, deserted, empty neighborhood filled with private houses for some reason. Never these big apartment buildings with tons of windows that face the street.
Yeah.
So wow, here it is.
Here it is.
So this is where she turns, right here on Continental and Dartmouth. Let me just get this.
So I want to show you something I found pretty incredible, actually.
All right, give me a second. And so as she turns this corner here, she's walking down this way. Berkowitz is walking up this way.
Yes.
And right here is where they intersect, literally right here.
Literally right here. And I actually found it ironic, Manny. I'd like you to, if you can get this picture in.
Yeah, we'll get that in.
That the front of the building is still the same, and the retail store to the side, same window.
Same windows.
And you can see her body placed between the pole and, I guess at the time, this tree was a baby. So she had to be...
She had to be right here.
Right here.
So that tree, that picture would have been taken actually since the tree is in the picture, right? So the picture would have been taken right here. That picture. Right? Because we have the tree here and then the pole. Tree and then the pole. And then this, so right here. Right about here is where that would have been taken.
Pretty interesting. I was hoping that the whole facade of the building didn't change, and it didn't. Yeah.
So yeah, right here is where Virginia Voskerichian, of course, the hedges were much bigger. But again, brass balls on Berkowitz. Look how many, this was 7:30 in the evening. You have private houses over there. You have an apartment building over there, 3 or 4 stories. Apartment building over here. Apartments over here. Bustling Station Square right there, and it's like rush hour still, 7:30, right?
Yeah.
You have all these apartments right here. And literally right at this intersection here. Not even, you could see Christine's car from here.
It's unbelievable. I knew it was close. I've heard people say 50 feet. It's not 50 feet, it's about 50 yards. Yeah. It's eerily close.
It's incredibly close. It's unbelievable that he would choose these 2 spots. So yeah, look, this. All right, so then what happens after this? So Berkowitz was walking from this way. This is what Berkowitz saw. He's walking from here. You're Virginia. I'm Berkowitz. We meet up right about, I guess right about here. Right here is where Berkowitz.
And she goes to raise her book, and
right, he shoots her right here. She falls right down here.
For those of you who have never actually seen the close-up pictures of what he did to her, I have to say, this physically, by far, was one of the more horrible of the murders, of the shootings he did. A third of her face looked like it was almost blown up. It was really horrible.
Well, it's a 44 at point blank range.
Yeah, but
I mean, that ain't going to be pretty afterwards.
It's not. But compared to some of the photos I've seen of Moskowitz and some of the other victims, it was really horrible. So, and I'm sure you remember these 3 windows, that famous photo of all the people standing around her with...
That photo was taken...
That is roped off, yeah.
I think that photo was taken from the street. So that photo would have been taken from right about here.
Yeah.
Well, this car's in the way, but right about here.
Now, Mr. Barlow said he was 240 feet away, so I'm going to pace that off. I want to see if he was right on this corner.
All right, so let's do that. Let's take the next step, all right? So we've seen the site where it happened.
We can remember the tree in the pole as a reference.
Okay.
So Barlow said 240, so that's 80 of my steps. My steps are a yard.
So quickly speak, real quick though, we can't assume everyone knows who Barlow is. Before we do this, who was Barlow?
Mr. Barlow was apparently the only eyewitness to the shooting that actually said he heard what sounded like a firecracker, saw what he thought was a struggle, and eventually Berkowitz actually ran by him, and he identified him for a police sketch that evening.
Right. He said he had a brown watch cap.
Brown watch cap.
Chubby
Initially,
teenager.
he said it was a dark sweater. Then he said it was just jeans and a dress shirt. But for the most part, when he saw Berkowitz's photo on the news, he said he positively identified him and said that's 100% who ran by me that night.
And also, he said that the guy said something to him, and Berkowitz, in his very detailed confessions, said that he said something to the person who's passed by.
Yes.
There's a little contention of whether it was "Oh Jesus"
or "Hey Mister" or
but
something.
Same amount of syllables. I mean, I mean, they don't sound the same, but at least they're the same amount of syllables.
So Mr. Barlow said he counted, and he was 240 feet from her body.
So he actually did that himself?
He actually did, yeah.
All right, so let's let these people pass.
So I'm assuming it's probably right at the corner of Tennis Place, but...
Yeah, most likely. And that was where he lived, correct?
He didn't really say.
Actually, that's right, he didn't say. All right, so let's let these people go a little bit, and then, so we'll start the pacing here. So 80 of our normal paces?
80 of, I step a yard.
Okay, all right.
I measured it, so 80 of my steps would be 240 feet.
All right, so let's start.
I saw a person standing there with his, let us say, his right arm at shoulder level, apparently as if he was holding somebody, you know, a necker or something like that, and I didn't pay too much attention to that. Simultaneously, and this was 80 steps times 3 feet, 240 feet away. I paced it off afterwards.
What street was that on?
It was on Dartmouth Street.
That was on Dartmouth?
Yep. Dartmouth and Tennis Place is where he passed me, and that was exactly 240 feet from where I found the girl.
Well, here you go. It was just before the corner of Tennis Place.
He said 80? You counted 80 just
That's 80 steps, and you can see the tree is where it happened. So when Mr. Barlow described a struggle or a headlock, it was nighttime. He could have seen her holding the book and Berkowitz waving his arm. And I think it's a little petty to knock his report down just for that.
Yo, now that we're here, you can clearly see. I mean, it's far down the street, yes.
So Berkowitz actually crossed him here.
He crossed him right here.
So if you were Mr. Barlow, I'm Berkowitz running away.
Right.
And then
Hi, mister.
Oh, Jesus. Now, according to Mr. Barlow...
Hold on. I want to still get on this. I'm still not done with this yet. So the camera kind of distorts things and makes things look a little farther away than they are. You want to verify that? Look through there. I mean,
yeah.
It looks farther away in our view from the camera. But standing here, I can clearly see the tree. I can see that retail store. You could make out movements. Remember, there's no leaves on the trees, right?
Ironically, it's going to be dark pretty soon, and if we're still here, I think you can just take a still shot of that, just for a little perspective.
Yeah.
I don't think it was impossible that he saw something happening there that he didn't interpret right.
It was not impossible.
But when Berkowitz ran here and he almost bumped into him, he said for that split second, he remembered his face. And for those other people that mock me, when I say I have no problem with his story, I'd like you to just now. People might laugh at this, and I really don't care. But if you tell me the guy in the ski cap or the watch cap, that's no way it can be Berkowitz?
It could be Berkowitz.
I say these composites and these sketches were all horrible, and he certainly didn't describe someone that couldn't definitely not be Berkowitz.
Right, exactly.
So
that could have been Berkowitz easily. Fat face, sort of. The nose is, you know, not very...
You can post these all on Twitter too. You know, I'll give you the real copies.
I'll put them in the video. Don't worry.
I mean, it's silly, but my point is,
it's not
like he described someone that
right. It doesn't discount it.
Couldn't right.
Exactly. None of this here throws out Barlow's testimony. And this is the first time, actually, John, in Son of Sam history, that someone's actually stood on this corner and filmed this shit and actually analyzed this properly.
You know, this is a beautiful place, and it's famous for a lot of things. There's a lot of history here that I read up on.
Yeah, this is gorgeous here.
But unfortunately, or fortunately, this is our thing. So I'm glad we got to do it, because very few people have ever even...
I had no clue. I've envisioned the shooting of Voskerichian taking place on a street.
A darker, more isolated area, right?
Yeah, more
Desolate.
isolated and with private homes, no apartment buildings. It was literally right in front of this apartment building right here. It goes the entire block.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is like a 4-story building. This is not a tiny building. Hundreds of people live here. All right, so now there's a lot of moving parts to this. We've dealt with Barlow. Now, what's the other issue with this particular?
Okay, so what I think would be a cool idea, if you want, it's
Absolutely.
a couple of block walk.
Hell yeah.
But Mr. Barlow described Berkowitz running to his car, and Berkowitz kind of verified it. As a matter of fact, on the killer tapes.
Right.
And in his confession, the night of his arrest. So if you want to take a walk, I can pretty much show you within 20 years where Berkowitz parked.
Within 20 feet?
Within 20 yards or so.
20 yards.
Whether it was this spot or that spot.
All right, now
So this is, yeah.
Go ahead.
So this is, Mr. Barlow says, as soon as he almost bumped into him and said, "Oh, Jesus," or "Hi, mister."
Right there.
He continued running down Dartmouth, which is where we are.
Right, now we're following the path of Berkowitz, and this is...
Berkowitz back to his car for the getaway.
Right, now this is what I envisioned Virginia getting shot, in this type of environment, with just private houses here.
Yeah, he kind of picked a busy spot. Apparently, it wasn't that many people out that night, but
7:30.
it's definitely a little risky.
It's ballsy.
There are definitely darker, more desolate areas that he could have picked. But you know, he even said himself, he doesn't know the method of his madness. He would just be triggered on an instant and decide to do what he was going to do.
Well, let's not forget that on March 8th, 1977, if the date is correct, he wrote one of those crazy letters in apartments, and he said, "Today's death day.
Yes.
The dog's been howling all day. How much blood does he want me to spill for him?"
Yes, he was on a mission that
He
night.
wrote that morning at 9:15 a.m. And then at 7:30 here, he was in this neighborhood doing his thing. Actually earlier, because I think people did see him stalking. Wow, look how beautiful this is around here.
Oh, now you can tell, like I was saying before, there are definitely pockets of this neighborhood that are very upper middle class, if not upper class.
This is upper. Didn't Donald Trump grow up in this neighborhood?
You know what? I'm really not sure. I believe it's possible.
I think Trump grew up in Forest Hills. And what's crazy is that you get off the Grand Central, John.
Yeah.
And it's this incredibly busy highway. It looks like you're in the middle of Los Angeles. And then the next thing you know, you get off the highway and it looks like this. It's like almost immediate. It's like, oh, another thing that we should point out, first of all, beautiful sycamore tree here. Absolutely gorgeous, old, right? Showing that this neighborhood has a very long history with trees and landscaping. So Maury's saying that there were no trees. Now, one of the things I'm noticing, John, is these windy streets. Didn't Berkowitz comment on, look at that, they coming at right angle, at triangles from each other?
Yes, when he was asked where he parked, he always says, well, you know, the windy streets, which there's a bunch of windy streets in this area. But we pretty much figured out where he parked for this shooting. The Freund shooting.
That's up in the air, because he was...
Not enough information.
Yeah, he was vague on that. He said 71st and Continental, but who really knows? Now, he did have a long way to run. That's actually ballsy too. Because,
absolutely.
I mean, yo, this is not a short jaunt.
I mean,
it's desolate, no doubt, but still.
You know, even in Brooklyn, I mean, he could have parked, he could have situated his getaway a lot better, a lot easier. But, you know, he still parked about a block and a half away. I figured out it was just like a 300-yard run or so.
Right.
He definitely made it a little harder on himself.
But then again, you're assuming he knew where he was going to do his shooting.
I am assuming that.
Right.
Yeah.
For all he knew that night, he could have done the shooting 10 feet from his car. So I don't really know if he thought about how far away his car was.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of an
Apparently,
interesting
he
question.
really didn't give that give a flying, you know what?
It seems like, yeah, it seems like by this time, by the time March was coming around, he was full blown into this. He was going nuts.
So,
Seemed like
Manny, this is the tennis stadium.
This is cool.
They built this in 1915.
This is some old school.
And I was actually,
Wow, I'd love to get in here.
I was pretty fascinated by a few things that happened here.
Oh yeah, like?
I mean, you know, they had music performances like Frank Sinatra was here and the Beatles played here in 1964.
Oh, right.
And Barry Manilow and the Bee Gees.
Yeah, it's
There's
funny.
a bunch of music, outdoor concerts here.
In my
And,
neighborhood.
oh, I'm sorry.
In my neighborhood, we have a very similar thing. It's called Gaelic Park. It's not as Tony and nice as this, but it's at the end of the train line. It's like one of these places where you'd never expect it, but like the biggest rock acts played there in the 70s.
Alfred Hitchcock filmed part of a film here.
And unfortunately, we can't see through this, but you can see the
Couple
top
of
there.
couple of movies were filmed.
Looks like Yankee Stadium, like the old Yankee Stadium.
Okay, so now he ran this way, made a slight right. And you know, also up until 1977, ironically, the US Open was held here before they moved to Flushing.
All right, okay.
So this was a pretty big deal. I think it was the West Side Tennis Club Association that ran the stadium. But this was a pretty big deal.
I think so. I mean, Forest Hills is like kind of known for tennis, and
John McEnroe played his first match here, as a matter of fact, in 1977.
really,
Which is,
he kind of looked like Berkowitz. All right, so you're saying that he then turned here. Now we're starting to
Yes.
look more like the Bronx.
now we're on 69th Avenue, and according to Mr. Barlow, the next block is Burns, which runs parallel to the train station.
Right, and he said that he was.
Barlow said Berkowitz told Flanagan he parked.
Hold on,
to the
hold on,
left.
hold on, I'm getting confused.
Okay.
Barlow said.
Barlow said after the arrest, Berkowitz told Detective Flanagan he parked
How did
close.
Barlow know this?
I guess he read, he was following the case, obviously. I guess he read up on some of those reports.
Okay, all right.
Berkowitz says he parked on the street that runs parallel to the railroad by the tennis courts, which is Burns and 69th, right here.
Right here.
This runs the same way as the railroad.
And this
And
is
the
also.
tennis courts are right here, as you'll see.
And this is actually a smart street to go on because it puts his car facing this way out
Yes.
of the neighborhood,
Yes,
leaving. He doesn't then drive back into the area where he just shot.
correct. So
And that's something
These-
we would only know by being here.
he also said it was a private street, no parking meters, and so I figure he pretty much parked from here to there.
And he told Flanagan the reason he was going down there is hell, he had his car parked on Burns Street 2 blocks away, meaning he had to go 2 blocks down Dartmouth Street and swing around and pick up his car on Burns Street.
You have to go right.
Yeah, he had to make a right turn, but he had to go around the stadium first.
He didn't say he made that turn again, because that would be going back towards the way we came.
Right.
So he,
And this is a windy street too.
yes. So I'd say he was probably either on this side or that side, right about here, which is a little bit of a hike, but he was a runner, and apparently he was pretty fast too.
Right, and he talked about like roaming and rock climbing. The dude was fit. He could have easily run. Okay, super interesting. This is a great eye-opening
Yeah,
walk and talk.
I thought this would be pretty cool, because now
Yeah.
you can picture him doing it, where he
Running.
bumped into Barlow and his escape to the car.
Now we also have the one other little moving part of this, which is some joggers that Maury made some big deal about. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, so in The Ultimate Evil, Maury names a jogger, he calls her Amy, and her brother, who went for a jog, I think it was 6:15, about an hour and a half prior to the murder, give or take. And if you want, I can kind of show you.
Yeah, we're here, of course.
What the route was and what exactly happened.
I think they were on Exeter.
Yes, that's their house.
And so 6:15 would make sense for them seeing Berkowitz.
Yeah. See, the thing is, she described a 6-foot man with pushback black hair wearing a raincoat. Now, we know Berkowitz had a ski cap or a watch cap on, and he says he had a ski jacket on. So
we don't
I
even
don't
know.
see why he would change clothing. And
actually, changing clothing might be part of it, the whole deal. Like, so he's in different.
I guess it's possible.
It's possible.
It just seems to me like she probably saw some creepy guy, and I don't think there was a shortage of them.
No.
Anywhere in the 70s.
And this part of the neighborhood here looks not quite as nice as the other part of it, but this might not be where she saw him. You know where all this took place?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
good.
The book and the police report is almost identical, and it starts from her leaving her house, starting her jog with her brother. So I guess we can pick it up there if you want to.
Yeah.
Stop, because it's a little bit. It's a couple of blocks of a walk from here.
Well,
Or you wanna
actually,
keep talking.
No, let's just keep talking. So this is actually a good opportunity for me to find out from you how in the hell you got into this subject in the first place.
Yeah, well, you know, I was 10 years old when Moskowitz happened. I was from the neighborhood. Prior to the Moskowitz shooting, I remember all the Son of Sam news reports and newspapers. It was an impressionable age, 10 years old. And I had an uncle who worked at Kings County that wound up having to actually wake Berkowitz up.
Really?
For breakfast, yeah.
Which way?
We're gonna go back. I think she was on 68th, and give me a sec. Okay, we're gonna go to Exeter, and between 70th and 69th. So we can take 69th to Exeter and start right near her house.
Okay. So you were saying about your family?
Yeah, my uncle worked at Kings County, and my aunt was a witness. Maury Terry even wrote about my aunt in the Ultimate Evil.
Changing her story too.
Yeah. My grandmother lived 2 blocks from the park. My great-grandmother lived a couple of blocks the other way. I was down there that night, had a family block party.
Isn't that the famous block party where someone crashed it and they thought it might have been Berkey?
Yes, and I was recently at a family reunion, and my uncle says he didn't remember Berkowitz being there. My mom says she remembers him being there. My other uncle said someone was there. He's not sure if it was Berkowitz or another guy.
It's just lost the time. We'll never know.
And I mean, I remember Robert Violante. I used to deliver groceries to him when I was a kid.
Really?
His mom, yeah, I remember the mom.
So obviously after he was shot?
After he was shot, yes, about 1980.
I tried getting in touch with him, he just would never answer my phone calls.
Okay, so between...
So here's Exeter.
So between 69th and
This
70th.
is also the street where Virginia lived, by the way, Exeter.
Okay.
So she was walking to here when she was shot. All right, so 69th and Exeter.
So 69th and 70th would be that way? Yes, right?
What was your map? You're asking me about Queens, I have no clue.
Okay, so the house was between 69th and 70th on Exeter. So I think 70th is that way,
70th
correct?
is this way for sure, yeah.
Okay, so. Of course, we don't know Amy and her brother's address, but considering the route she took, I'm going to assume she lived in one of these houses. Either here or here.
Right.
Okay, so let's assume it's this house. She came out for her jog, and they started by going this way.
This way, okay.
Yes.
So this is important because Maury says that Berkowitz was being driven around the neighborhood. He couldn't have been where they said he was because it was impossible for him to walk that fast.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're putting to the test right now.
They made a left turn here.
Okay.
Now, this is described perfectly in the police reports and in the Ultimate Evil. The Ultimate Evil, Maury screws up the route a little bit, of course, but if you follow the police report and this video, it's very easy to understand. So this is Fleet Street. So when they got to this corner, they jogged and made a left.
So have they seen the guy already?
At this point, there's nothing happening. There's nothing
Fleet
abnormal.
Left.
Yes.
Now this is taking us back to Continental,
Yes.
Station Square.
Yes.
Okay. So she's just jogging along. She's
jogging. Her brother's following her, trailing a little behind. And I assume this was a jog they did maybe every night. This was their route, I guess.
Right.
But eventually, a little bit of controversy was made of it. So I think it's pretty cool that we do this.
We have to.
Because I think I can explain.
In other words, it's one of these things where Maury makes it seem impossible, but the possibility exists that he could have, that whatever he, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. And I don't want to say anything because let's walk it out.
Okay.
I don't want to ruin it.
Sure. Of course, January 30th and Voskerichian was March 8th, which is still technically winter.
Yeah, you know, now, I think somebody had commented that it was warm and why would Berkowitz have a hat on and all this stuff? But
warm.
I mean, if anybody wants me to, I'd rather not. But if you'd like me to show you the pictures of Virginia Voskerichian on the ground with a scarf, gloves, boots, and a heavy coat on, I'll be glad to do that. I'd rather not. It's kind of gruesome.
So in other words, it was cold. And we did check the weather for that evening. It was solidly in the 40s, so it wasn't a warm, you know, early spring night. Okay, so we're at 70th now. And
yeah, so they continue straight. They're jogging.
All the while, we're heading back to the whole hubbub of Continental and Station Square and Dartmouth and all that stuff. Lighting isn't as great today as I would have hoped, but take what you can get.
Well, you know, for the people that walk this out on Google Earth, you could kind of get the same feel. Maybe we'll even do that also. But I think they're going to get the picture. So I think it's going to be fine.
Hey, look, there's a peach tree.
Nice. Looks a little bit like the Amityville house.
It does. I mean, it's amazing, like New York City, these little neighborhoods like this, and Brooklyn is filled with them, and so is the Bronx.
Yeah, I guess when all's said and done, we do a lot of bitching, but New York is actually a pretty cool place if you're able to do it right.
Exactly, yeah. The key is, able to. Just tough for a lot of people, but you know, this neighborhood here, people don't have much issue. I'd like to read up more about Forest Hills. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch of history here.
So
at this point, there's still Amy's jogging, her brother's trailing behind a little, and they haven't encountered anything unusual at this point, still. And now we're back at this light.
71st?
Continental, yes.
Oh, this is Continental, all right.
Yeah, 71st
is Continental.
Yes. Another beautiful house, right, Manny?
Yeah, I mean, this is a killer neighborhood.
Nice, backyard, little terrace.
I mean, I get a great feel from this place.
Yeah. Very nice neighborhood.
Really, really. It's just something special, this area. I like it a lot around here. All right.
So you're Amy, I'm her brother now.
Whoops.
Okay, so now they turn left.
Okay.
And they start jogging
Now we're heading back up to
towards
Station Square.
Yes.
So then what happens?
Well, at this point, everything is fine still. They're jogging and they're huffing and puffing and sweating or whatever.
Just to give people an idea, I mean, look at this landscaping. I mean, I'm just noticing, you know,
The
Maury
size
was,
of the house.
yeah, Maury was like, oh, there's no trees around here. He must have lugged a spruce from Yonkers because there was no trees in the neighborhood. What the hell is he talking about? This area is known, like one of the biggest things I'm seeing here is the horticulture.
Absolutely. A lot of trees.
Trees everywhere. All right, so
Now
now
we're on Continental, and this is Exeter again,
So
where
this
we
is-
started,
right,
down by her
2
house.
blocks away there.
Yes. And they continue jogging.
It's a huge
Big
house.
houses, yes. They're all pretty huge.
Yeah. I bet you this was a pretty big mob area back in the day.
I don't know, but apparently it was definitely for high net worth individuals, regardless, right?
Exactly. Something better start happening, John.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm
well,
going to start saying Maury's, you know, what's going on?
Well, listen, you know what? We were fans of the Ultimate Evil, and there's a lot of them out there that watch, whether they want to admit it or not. And I think they deserve this. This is pretty cool if you're still into that, you know, you kind of get a visual, right?
Yeah, exactly. And look, I mean, that's the standard which we're all coming to this story from. We're coming at it from the cult angle. So we have to compare the new information to that stuff in order to understand this crime for ourselves. And that's what we're trying to do here.
You know, I got to where I am on my own, and I know you did. And everybody's got to examine and figure out what makes sense to them.
Right, like what's going to be the trigger that makes you realize that, you know, maybe you were sold a bill of goods. For me, it was, I mean, I started changing once I started hearing from the Nettos. That's when everything started changing for me. And just heading up to Yonkers and realizing the cognitive dissonance, right? Like no one ever heard of the Son of Sam cult, 22 Disciples of Hell. No one heard of Wheaties or any of this stuff.
You know, it's funny because I was talking to book club today, and we both agreed that, and I'm sure you're going to agree, that with this Lisk stuff that just happened, we could sit down literally and write a book and make that into a conspiracy. Just based on evidence, and already we have witnesses that saw him in the woods, and did he look like him, did he didn't look, you know.
Right, exactly.
So this is what happens with true crime, and like I said, I got to where I am on my own, so.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of the way it has to be. Obviously, no one can be convinced. You have to just put in the work yourself. All
Okay,
right.
so now, here Amy the jogger and her brother come to what they describe as a play area, which is here.
Look at that play area.
At this point, Amy notices, now she says in her report by the opening, I assume it's that. Is that the entrance? Or is the entrance? Yeah, the entrance will be here. So as they turn jogging here,
Well, there's no entrance.
well,
Well, maybe
here.
Yeah, here's the entrance.
So now Amy describes, and very dramatically in The Ultimate Evil, as Maury describes her describing it, a very creepy looking man in a raincoat with the pushback black hair staring at her.
Now, let's point out that this is across the street from where Virginia was shot.
Across from Voskerichian.
Right.
As
How are you?
as Amy and her brother turned this corner, they saw the creepy, I'm the creepy guy in the raincoat. And she got creeped out. Apparently he made a funny face and he was staring at her. So she immediately turned to her brother and kind of waved him on to speed it up. And they continued their jog. So that's the first time they spotted this man.
Right.
Now, they continued their jog straight here. And here's what we weren't told. What I had to find out using Google Earth and comparing reports and stuff. So as they were creeped out and started going back the direction they came, Amy and her brother went this way.
Down Tennis Place.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, before we go, at some point they were spotted again on 69th and Exeter.
Who was spotted again?
Amy and her brother spotted creepy guy that they just left back here.
So they just left there.
Yes. So Amy and her brother took Tennis down to Exeter.
Okay.
And then made a right. I can meet you there and show you why that could be if you want, or we can just walk one way.
No. Let's do that.
Okay.
Now don't talk, because it's going to end up on here, okay?
Okay.
I'll keep on narrating.
So you're going to take Tennis.
Okay.
It's going to take you right to Exeter.
And you're going to continue down.
And you're going to make a right on Exeter.
And I'm making a right on Exeter.
And we're going to meet up at 70th and Exeter.
70th and Exeter.
I'm going to show you how creepy guy could have actually beat them there.
Okay.
Because I know they went this way.
Okay, so I'm going this way. All right, so once I reach Exeter, I'm turning right?
To 70th.
70th, turn right.
Exeter, and turn right.
Hope I remember that. So yeah, I mean, this is what you have to do if you're gonna talk smack, right, like we do against Maury. Well, you better be prepared to back up, you know, your claims. So we're doing that here. We're actually out in the windy, very windy streets. Look at this, right? Look at this windy street here. Very windy streets of Forest Hills. So far, Berkowitz's descriptions, everything, it's like totally matches. This Tennis Place is pretty windy. All right, so again, what we're doing right now, I've left John. He's taking the route of the jogger. No, I'm taking the route of the jogger. He's taking the route of the creepy person. And we're testing whether walking at normal pace, actually I'm probably going a little slower, but I do walk very fast. Typical New Yorker. All right, we're gonna see if we can meet up, and if we can, then Maury's theory is disproved, because he said it was impossible. There you... Yo, you're waiting for me. Holy shit, dude.
Creepy, I'm creepy guy.
So creepy guy got to, so this is where they saw him again, John, right?
This is the second spot where they saw the raincoat creepy guy.
They saw him again. So basically he just went around the block. They went a different way. He met them at this corner.
I can show you on the map because it's easier to understand.
And you were here before me.
See, we were here.
Let's get into the light.
See, we were
Come
here.
over here. It's more light.
We were here. You went down Tennis Place this way.
Right.
I went down Dartmouth and came right here. So you actually ran away from me, then came back. I just went straight down.
Now, Maury said that this was impossible without Berkowitz being driven around the neighborhood, so therefore he had to have two people. We have just proved in real time, unbelievable, that you were here first. And you were following the creepy guy, and I was following the jogger. You were here first.
I was actually a creepy guy.
You were waiting for me,
So,
just like he was.
just what happened. And then Amy and her brother jogged a half a block up and went back in their house. And they saw Berkowitz walk back, creepy guy walk back that way.
If that was Berkowitz, right.
Whoever creepy guy in the raincoat was.
And timeline-wise, that would make sense if that was Berkowitz. It could have been Berkowitz. The possibility exists. Maybe he changed his clothes. Who knows? Maybe he went back to his car, got a different clothing. He certainly had time to, because this area, everything's within like 3 or 4, 5-minute walk from each other, including the shooting site, everything, all this stuff.
Well,
Wow.
there lies the controversy of she couldn't have possibly seen him at spot A and then spot B, because I'm sure Berkowitz was running a lot faster than I got here.
Another
So-
bald-faced lie, if that was Berkowitz. But whoever it was, because again,
Right.
no proof it was, but whoever it was could have easily done, oh my God. All
But
right, John.
nonetheless, for you Ultimate Evil fans, at least you see the setup, what happened, and make your own decision. But it seems that I kind of have an explanation for why.
I'm totally, just seeing you here when I turned that corner was like massively eye-opening.
And you can fact check us with the book.
Please.
This is 70th and Exeter, the corner.
Yeah, in fact, here's Exeter and Herrick, right?
Yeah, I guess
Which
I guess Herrick is.
Right,
Close.
just so we know, Exeter and 70th. In fact, I don't want to bother
I
that.
think this piece of 70th is dedicated to Herrick.
To Herrick, right.
Herrick Avenue, I
But
guess.
let's just prove it, just absolutely so people can see. So again, here's 70th and Exeter.
No problem, honey, no problem.
All right, John, so anyway, let's go over here and see them on out.
Yeah.
So this was a great, actually really eye-opening walk and talk. I think this is really important for people to see.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. So now you can read the book and all these reports, and you have a visual of these spots.
Right, and this is the first
And,
time anyone's actually ever gone out and actually done this, retraced it. So John, thank you so much for inspiring this. And
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for
You're very
organizing
welcome.
this.
Yeah, totally, my pleasure. And we will see you guys at the next video. Take care, thanks very much.